About a year ago, I made a video called Hate Has No Colour or Race. So this is part 2. In that video, I spoke on forgiving the murder of black leaders like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Fred Hampton, and even aspects of the transatlantic slave trade, and had rightly or wrongly given my word to the idea of forgiveness some years prior to that video. This is why our word is important. We speak our lives into existence, which is why it's important to have integrity in your word. So often we just sort of blah 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 all over the place without being conscious, no control, no interrupting of self when we're talking crap basically, and then wonder why we find ourselves in such mixed up situations. But for a moment, consider that we speak our lives into existence. We write the story of our lives through our words. So, I declared that I was forgiving X, Y and Z. Now, however many years later, it even feels in my body like hard. There's a lot of resistance to it. It's not an easy thing to do to forgive something like slavery that was so barbaric, and for instance, when you read papers like Willie Lynch, it just sticks in your craw. Earlier this week, in one of my healing meditations, which was on the topic of forgiveness, and even though going into it I was focusing on forgiveness in the reality of myself and where I feel aggrieved by others like that, when you feel into the pain body and identify the original source of that pain, it can be from childhood, but it can also be from ancient times. So during this healing, I regress back to an ancient, and it's not the first time, but it was tough and it was hard and I was in tears. I connected with an African woman who was in a terrible state, and I don't even know why she came, because really we tend to connect with our inner child, but she was there on the beach in my safe place. Like, you visualize a safe place where you can connect, and the best I could do for her was to release her back into the ocean. And even speaking on it now, it's hard to think of my people going through that and being in such a state. Anyway, I feel like I released her back to the elements, and that felt good. Then I was like, how am I supposed to forgive that? I can't. And I felt like I could not find it in myself to forgive in thought, and even though I declared it in word. But I stayed in the moment and just allowed the knowledge to come through. I didn't run away, I didn't resist it, I just allowed it and asked the question and waited for the answer. Really, there's no definitive answer, there's no absolute, it's like a movable feast. It's perspective plus conscious interpretation. So bear with me while I connect up the dots. One of the things that did come through to me on another occasion was how Africans created another race. I was like, why would we do that? Why? And a race that would seem to clash with us and be so detrimental, not just to us, but to life, humanity in general. But they have also been at the front of implementing many amazing feats like modern industrialisation, infrastructure, flying to the moon, and tools for navigating the oceans. Okay, disclaimer. This is not to say that I think all races are bad, and that those of you watching this, that I have something against you. I don't. This is what has been downloaded to me, for want of a better expression, and I'm sharing without prejudice, and like I always say, you pick the good sense from the nonsense. So Africans created this other entity of people, and I'm like, well, why would you do this? And I was like in distress as to why the hell would you do this? And I received that human beings will always be curious. Okay, so that was that insight. Fast forward to this insight about the forgiveness, and bring into the mix, bear with me because it's a lot, that our lives, our existence and evolving is holographic. So the woman on the beach and the child she put into my arms, and the knowing that I'm coming into about Africa and African ancients and what has been created over eons, and myself now, it's all one thing. It's all connected. but it's like a hologram. There are different angles to it. So considering that as a context, you know, what I heard from my angels, Orisha, was that human beings will always be curious. So I'm thinking, what? We created this whole other entity, whole other race on a whim, just to see what it would be like. And even though it just seems really futile, it's not dissimilar to the reason I allowed or put in my soul contract for someone to come into my life to wake me up to what I needed to learn in order to evolve, even though it's painful until you release it. So in the same way that I'm doing that, this tiny fragment of the hologram, the same way that African nations have done that. So it could be said that we created other races, particularly the white race, in order to evolve to our next lifetime, or state of being, you know, our next level of evolving. Okay, so I know my words are becoming a little convoluted, but if you take in what I'm saying like piece by piece, and the essence of which is that it could be said that we have all lived through and are living through the aftermath of the transatlantic slave trade, all people, to evolve to the next level of humanity. Told you it was a lot. It feels like a lot anyway. So what that overall provides for me, not like the truth, but from a place to understand, a place to look from, for me, in relation to giving my word to the idea of forgiveness over this topic, is that we created it. Why is someone else being made wrong for what we created? So there's a level of responsibility to take for that. Flipping, take responsibility for what you've created, what you have spoken into existence. I created this man to come into my life. Likewise, a race of people was created. So own it. Owning it helped me to release myself from the pain of it. Not completely, there's still a lot there, but it's helping me to get immediate relief from the traumatic pain of my ancestors, so I can do my work. Relief from the DNA results, the genes and the holographic programs that exist within me because of it. Clearly, I'm not a unique human being, but life has brought me here at this time, and I've been moved to take action on it. Anyway, I actually don't think I will release all of it in this lifetime, and you know, the state of our outrage and black people still being murdered, our deep trauma and upset is just still part of how it's going to go for a while to come still. But also we have to consider that existence is eons and eons and eons old. It's not some 2015 years old. Existence is eons old. And if that's the case, that Africans created other races in order to move to the next level of evolving, then there's a whole swathe of brilliance, a whole transformation available in the future. Well, it's in the future for us in the physical world, but it exists already. And, you know, transformation can happen in the click of fingers. So it could happen any moment, like any moment, any moment, any moment. And that has provided me with a wealth of peace and release from resistance about my past lives, like our past lives. And I think it's important to share for me as a vessel at this time. And no doubt you will share with me how that is impacting your understanding of who you are in the world and you're putting together and expanding of your evolving. I don't know. But that's what's up.
Get ready for the shift, we are the chosen ones. I'm a child of the city.